Arthur writes, if a nonprofit board uses a unanimous written consent procedure, email vote, is a director allowed to abstain and still have the vote count as unanimous? Or must all votes be yes for the action to carry? In my experience, first of all, you're going to look first at your applicable state nonprofit corporation statute, where the organization incorporated is 99.9% of the time the statute that you're going to look to see whether there's anything on issues like this. So your state nonprofit corporation statute is going to have some provisions around what's required to have an action in lieu of a meeting, sometimes called action without meeting, unanimous written consent, something like that. Also want to look at your bylaws. So long as they're consistent with state law, the bylaws may have something to say about this. But I will say generally, in my experience, most nonprofit corporation statutes I've seen, they don't necessarily speak to this explicitly, but they simply say that all directors must consent in writing. And the way I interpret that is that you have somebody abstaining, meaning they may be okay with having the action outside of a meeting, but they're not consenting to the action. They're not saying, yes, I approve via written consent and we move forward. So somebody abstaining is not the same thing as saying yes. There are some exceptions, however, with some states. I believe California is one state that allows, in a conflict of interest situation, the statute explicitly says that somebody who has a conflict and abstains for that reason, it'll still be counted as unanimous, even though naturally that person shouldn't be voting. And I like that part of the California statute because it makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't go for all states. And in those states where you don't have a provision like that and you cannot get together to have a meeting, then maybe you look at delegating to a committee, that just includes people that don't have the conflict, and you can perhaps get around it that way and just have the person not be part of that committee. But short answer is most statutes I've seen are going to say everybody needs to participate in the vote, with some exceptions, perhaps for conflict of interest situations. Do you have anything to add to that, Mike?
Yeah, I see these. I'm sure you've seen them. They come up from time to time. To me, they come up in two big issues. Something unexpected,
Mm-hmm.
and for larger organizations where the board meets less frequently than a local organization.
Mm-hmm.
And in both cases, a little prep on the front end will avoid a problem, keeping an eye on your state statutes, laws, and of course your own internal procedures, so you can get around that. So the one where I see it most common, Ben, because I think we should talk about this for a second, is we're at the end of a board meeting. The staff has to find out something else, to get a contract or something. And then we're going to circulate it because the next board meeting is 3 months away.
Right.
And so everybody, again, it's that clear, communications to everybody. We're doing this. Keep an eye on your email.
Yeah.
And it's couple reminder emails will avoid a problem, because I'm always worried about one person holding up,
Right.
a 20-person board, and they know that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it. Someone figures out like a loophole in this. I can, everybody's voting against me, but I can delay this. And the other one for the unusual item, I know this is oversimplified, but there are times when you call a special board meeting and bring people in, and it could be, if it rises, because a lot of these things, they're either very procedural, like we just got to get something else checked, or it's significant, and maybe we should get people, because it looks good from a transparency that we brought the board, some major earthquake.
Right. Right. Yeah, and certainly if you're in that situation, the reason for the abstention, maybe look carefully at that if you really do need unanimous consent and you can't get a board meeting together. But I've had situations where board members just they insist that they're going to abstain, and it's not a conflict of interest, but that can be a challenge. And one point that I don't think I said clearly, there are some states that are a little more flexible that do have the option, at least if you provide it in your bylaws, of having written consent outside of a meeting without fully unanimous. It, like a majority in some cases, in some states, can be allowed. So again, mainly look at the statute, then look at your bylaws, and preparation, like you said, Mike.